All right, Robbie, we have a special guest this week. We're actually going to do a weird thing this month, and the guests are going to be people that are part of our family. And we're pretty excited to announce that Taylor Bodin, our lead trail reviewer, is actually coming on full time this spring and is going to be a like dedicated to trail running and growing our trail running audience and content side of things. Taylor Bodin, who I called Taylor Bodin for like a year and a half.
I mean, I don't know. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you. Yeah, and you're not the only one. My first couple years as a teacher, my principal called me Mr. Bodin forever, and I just kind of quietly told everybody the right way to say it. It's French, apparently. So,
you're like a Cajun.
Yeah, maybe.
Cajun from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Bodin is, I guess you're closer to Canada. That would make the French connection more likely.
Yeah.
There was an actor, Bodin.
Oh, yeah.
And like gold medal, snowmobile, freestylist.
Oh, yeah. Everybody knows about snow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Snowmobile freestylist.
Us Minnesotans, yeah. I've never like met any other Bodines though, so it's fair.
So Taylor, what do you do full time now?
I am an elementary school teacher, teach first grade here in the mountains of Estes Park. For a long time, that did include coaching too until this year, and then it was my year of saying no. So I'm just teaching, just reviewing, and turns out my year of saying no ended up being a year of saying yes with the Believe in the Run family. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the gist of it. Really simple.
Nice. Yeah. So you've been reviewing for us for how long now? 5 years, I think.
5 years, which is just wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone quick.
Yeah, and through that time, you've become the trail expert at Believe the Run, and you've run in, how many shoes do you think you've run in at this point at trail shoes?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Well, I was just making a list of all the shoes that we've reviewed this year for trail, and there's like 60 some trail shoes, and I usually get in most of them.
Right.
So a lot, and then like my first trail shoe, or not even trail shoe, the first shoe I reviewed was this weird Mizuno, which now I know is probably one that nobody else wanted. But yeah. So I know how that is. But yeah, like a lot of shoes over the years. And the trail space has just grown. So like there's so many more offerings every single year. So I don't even know, Robbie. A lot.
I mean, one of the things that I was impressed with, besides just the amount of shoes that you've reviewed for us, which thank you, is your comfort on the trails and your abilities on the trails. Like, I think it's one thing if you can throw down the road that's like just pure power and muscle and you know, you got a work ethic or whatever. But the trails you kind of need like, I don't know, coordination and power.
It helps. Yeah, both help for sure. Yeah, well, after I was done with college, I ran track and cross country through high school and in college. And I was pretty much ready to be done with running, at least like road running and stuff. And I was thankful that we moved to Estes Park where we're at now, and it had a ton of trails. And so it really revitalized running for me, but I did learn quickly exactly what you're saying of like, it requires a few things. Skill is one of them. And it's like over the years, you just continue to build some of that comfort and skill. But yeah, and power is helpful too when you're here in the mountains for sure.
Yeah, but you grew up in Minnesota, which isn't exactly known for elevation or altitude.
Not at all.
Which is wild because two of the best ultra runners of all time, Courtney Dauwalter and Scott Jurek, are both from Minnesota as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that all about?
I don't know exactly. Probably just needing an outlet. I was just back in Minnesota for Thanksgiving, and even my family, which they're fairly active, like you can just end up sitting around a lot of the times because it's so dang cold during the winter. And so I I have a hunch that many athletes that have come out of Minnesota just like needed something to do, and that's was me too. Of like I needed to be busy, I needed some sort of physical outlet, and so I'm glad it ended up being running. But some people ski, some people, just go out and shovel snow. I don't know. Minnesota.
What about ice fishing?
For
ice
creating
fishing?
athletes? Ice fishing. Oh man, yeah. I've had a lot of long days and nights in the ice castle, trying to stay warm and.
That sounds. I've never been ice fishing, but I feel like I need to do it at some point in my life.
I could totally see Robbie sitting, freezing his ass off on a lake with like a thing of beers and a rod in the water.
It sounds pleasant.
Yeah.
Well, the
just
thing is,
quiet, just getting away.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I mean, that's fishing anyways, right? But it's a whole new level when you can't move around, can't like necessarily get comfortable. That was my childhood experience. But nowadays, like my grandpa and my uncle, the fish houses, they're basically mobile homes you bring out on the ice.
Oh, really?
And they have like bunk beds, they have a full kitchen, TV.
That's insane.
And so
they're wild on.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. No, it's a whole new level up there.
Yeah, so not to do with snowmobiles and ice fishing. I'm going to bring it back to trail running a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the other things I've noticed about you is that you're a super fan of the sport as well. Like when we were at Western States and Broken Arrow this past summer, all, and it's that's the other thing that's weird about trail running, because you're all stuck in the village together. It's not like road running where, Dez is over at this hotel, this other athlete's over at that hotel, and you kind of see them maybe crossing the street or something like that. When we were staying there, you see all the athletes in the village. You're at the coffee shop with them. They're very accessible, and you seem to know everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know how it is in the running space, but especially in like the trail running space. When it comes down to it, it's a really fairly small world still, even though it feels big to me, and like especially now, like opportunities are kind of endless in the industry, but there's still just like select groups, select people. It's a bunch of like weirdos who like to be outdoors and do hard things, I guess, but that's not a lot of people in the world. So when it comes to events like Western States, or it was the same at UTMB, even though that was like way next level from Western States, even like you end up knowing so many people because it's really not that many people in the world that are doing something like this, but it's growing, and that's pretty awesome and exciting too.
Do you feel like the way that it's growing is, two things? Do you think it's just the beginning, and B, do you think it's sustainable? Because trail races are different than road races. You can't have 40,000 people on a trail. You can have a couple thousand people depending on where it is and which trails, but there's kind of a cap almost.
Totally. And especially here in the States, it's that way because most of the races are run in National Forest Service, which they have a cap depending on where you're at and what particular forest you're in. And so like it is limited in that sense, but I really think it's just the beginning of the broadening of it. Like you're probably going to see more races still about the same size for most races that you would see around today, but you're just going to see more of them. They're going to be more accessible, more places, more companies are creating more opportunities like that. And the other part of it is a big part that's growing is like the adventure tourism side of it. And so there's a lot of different ways it can grow, and it is growing already, but it really seems like it's the beginning because of that. But you're right. There's only so many people that can effectively be on a trail without just being in a Congo line already.
Well, Scott Jurek was talking about like wave starts. Now, or like multiple day races where there's different, I guess just plain old waves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you do see that in like the whole UTMB week is a good one to look at because it's kind of the pinnacle of our sport. It is the pinnacle of our sport, but they have races for 6 days straight, and they're starting at different locations, but they have a common finish line, different distances. And so some of that's already happening, But in terms of like, if, they wanted to raise the UTMB to having 10,000 athletes instead of 3,000 athletes, yeah, they're probably going to have to start in waves like that. But also, I feel like that sustainable conversation is a little more at the forefront for trail runners, because we still want it to be an outdoor experience for the most part.
You don't want it to be like a rock and roll concert.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm someone who loves competition just as much as anybody else who's really competitive. And I love the sport, but yeah, there's going to be some challenges with the growth. And there already has been that I'm also a race director, so we have been trying to manage in that way. And like, you have to get really creative with what you offer, how you offer it, but you still want it to be for everybody. And so that's hard.
That's a good time to shout out your race, by the way.
Yeah. Run Wild events in Estes Park. Lots of great races popping up. Yeah.
So here at Believe in the Run, it's never a linear line of what we end up doing and how we end up working on stuff. We kind of follow opportunities and stuff like that. But as coming on as a full-time trail reviewer, what do you think, like, what are the things that you're hoping that you're going to bring to the table and things that you're hoping that you can grow for the company?
I feel like this is the interview right here. Right?
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm glad I already agreed to this. And you did too.
I did.
Well, I think one thing is like being present at events. You were talking about it at the running event of like, Believe in the Run isn't just doing reviews anymore. It's more of a brand. So how is our brand going to be able to fit into the outdoor space? That's going to be some problem solving. And really from my end, I'd love to just follow your guys' creativity on how you've been able to do that so far, because there hasn't been. We want to do, from my perspective as a reviewer, we want to do this, this, and this, and that's how we get to the pinnacle. You're following your creativity, and that's part of the reason why Believe in the Run is viewed as different from the consumer. And I mean, always having that honesty as part of it. So I think figuring out a way that Believe in the Run, it fits into the outdoor space. And from my perspective, it's already there. That's how it started, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I feel like laying that groundwork with the shoe reviews over the last 5 years, the trail shoe reviews and stuff, and having, especially last year, doing some stuff out in the space has been good. But then having you, especially on the West Coast or out in Colorado, is great because it's a lot closer in proximity to a lot of the events that are out there, I feel like. Yeah. Which, by the way, I feel like the East Coast needs to get some bigger stuff going on. I mean, there's some good trail races.
I felt like Vermont had some stuff, but not like you're talking about, more like mountain races and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I will
give us some credit.
The Broken Arrow Trail Series and certainly Western States really opened our eyes to like you. I looked at you and I was like, you feel like a native there. You do feel like you belong. For us, even though I've done trail races, tons of trail races and ultras and everything like that. When I went out there, I felt like Believe in the Run as an entity was a guest. We weren't embedded. What I'm hoping, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
What I'm like, we watched Dylan Bowman and those guys, and they're definitely like, that's the crew. And by no means do I feel like we'll be. I think if anything, we'll be a great partner to Free Trail on our trail side. I don't see us as a competitor or even trying to be a competitor with Dylan on that side. I think they're doing a phenomenal job, and like you coming on is more just broadening and making, even for the people that are interested in our road reviews, more accessible to the trail side of things. And look, most of the people that come to us aren't people that are buying one shoe to do all their running in. They want a specific shoe for a specific reason, and they want to know, okay, the trail shoe. And I think seeing you're a legitimate mountain runner, you're a legitimate racer. Watching you do the vertical mile was insane Was that just the vertical mile that you did, or wait, what was
vertical kilometer?
What was the one that you did the first day for Broken Arrow, where it was just like they said cough out the blood or spit out the blood?
Tim Tollefson up there yelling that was the VK, and so going up a kilometer over the shortest distance possible. But I think you hit something right on the nose of like, we're not trying to be, in my mind, we wouldn't try to be a competitor. And you've done such a great job with Believe in the Run at this, of like not necessarily viewing anybody as competitor, but as we all elevate our own practice, it's going to elevate everybody else. And that's like just a personal philosophy and something that I teach, like try to instill in my athletes, of like the idea of competing with each other is going to bring out the best in everybody. And Believe in the Run's always had the lane of like the gear. It's focused on the gear. And because of that focus and trust that you've built with a community, and I need to start saying us too, because our trail team has done a lot too. As you start building that trust, that's what organically makes these community events so popular and so desired by so many people, because there's a built trust on the gear level, our expertise, and it just kind of boils over into the other things. So just my view of like this next year is like let's get into some events. Let's make Believe in the Run more well-known, gain that same trust so that we can do some of the similar things that you guys have been able to achieve on the roadside. Because it's special, right? Like the community that comes from it is really special. And
well, I feel like trail even has, I think trail even has more of a community aspect. I mean, I know there's road running groups and crews and everything, that's clubs that have become more popular over the last few years, but I feel it. I think trail running in general has a more history of community, or this inside, I don't know, ragtag club of people.
Do you think that's partially because like when you're out, like when you're on the road and something goes wrong, you can stop, go to 7-Eleven, get a car to come pick you up or whatever. But when you're on the trails, you really are dependent on the other people out there. And a lot of the support comes from like, we're in a race and you're missing a goo, and I say, hey, here you go. You need some nutrition or something. But like when you're out on the trail, like it could be a lot more, like everything from first aid to
the aid stations. Hanging out after the race. The fact that most people were walking half the time.
Not Taylor though. That's what I love about Taylor.
Not Taylor, yeah.
But Robbie and I.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Having long conversations with people, whether they want to or not.
I have to say, I was surprised at both Robbie and my performance at Broken Trail, considering that we were city slickers and not used to altitude. I think we were respectable on that course.
I was happy with it.
Yeah. Oh, you totally were. Yeah.
But
and you guys both know you could have done better in that respect. But I think trail running, when it came down to it, like the sport's only like, as a sport, 15 years old. And so like it's just starting to get into its heyday. But since it's so new, it's been able to maintain some of its core value of like, it all started, races literally started of saying, hey, I think we could do this quicker, and start adding people to it. Started at a trailhead. Like all the bells and whistles are kind of taken off, and that's the experience people wanted. It was never about really anything else. And so like, I like that even in these massive trail races, that piece is still there. Yeah, exactly. And so
I've always compared it to
a whole vibe.
The difference between kind of like music concerts, like a Fish concert would be more like a trail run versus a Taylor Swift being your marathon major.
Totally. Yeah. It's a very bluegrass vibe for sure. But and I think with the competition side being so relatively new to it, we're just getting into the days and age where there's getting to be significant money at some races. even some smaller races, like some of our races here in Estes Park, like we offered $1,000 for our backyard that we just hosted in the fall.
Wow.
Like even smaller races.
Does that bring the top people?
Well, yeah, that was the aim, and it did bring more competition. Like it was our furthest year yet, and so but that's only a certain percentage, right? So that was like 5% of the athletes there were going for that money, really, whereas the rest of them were still looking for that experience on the trail with some people. They're just there to be on the trail, and so I hope that will just continue as the sport grows, for sure.
I mean, I think there's an appeal to that, though. Like, even being at like the Broken Trail series and seeing these people that are like the top of their game and just fantastic athletes. I mean, I think Jim Walmsley ran the VK challenge with you.
Yeah.
You know, and then ran the Western States.
Yeah,
but
a week later.
You know, it's exciting for the average person, and I would consider myself an average person, to be there knowing that those people are there. It's fun to see like the real athletes at these courses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like everybody's just a person there. And I know even just logistics in a major marathon or something like that just wouldn't work out for most athletes that are at the tip of the sphere, but it really does work for the trail community because it's all coming down to people just being there, wanting a trail experience, and even the elite athletes of like, they likely got into it because of that too.
All right, let's talk about some personal goals.
Yeah.
So now that you're opened up and right now you review shoes and you teach and your days are pretty structured and the training, you don't have as much flexibility for training. You're super talented at running trails. Is there some personal goals that you think that when your schedule is a little more flexible, working, you know, the way that we work, that you're going to go after some big goals?
I mean, that would be pretty ideal, right? Of like just getting into some consistent training where I feel confident. That's where I've always struggled as an athlete. So like that would be the first and foremost, just to feel confident as a runner myself. There are some local FKTs that, since I'm in the Boulder area, that Solomon pro athletes have taken down that I maybe previously held. I would like to go after some of that kind of stuff. And so like that gets me going. Like those are the things that motivate me, kind of like home course stuff, because I love the training. I love to train. Racing is just it's the celebration. But some other, like, it would be awesome to do any of the UTMB races. I still love getting into ultra stuff, but the sport has grown so much that we could go to Broken Arrow, and I would love to do the premier event there, the 23K, like some of that. But I'd also love to go to Leadville and run the iconic Leadville 100 and do well.
Robbie said he would pace you the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll pace you to the start line.
And then from 100K to the end.
All right,
so you got to make this happen, Robbie.
It's not happening.
In the time that we've had trail reviewers, we've had a few people picked off the team and ended up being sponsored athletes. How many athletes have you worked with since you've been at Believe in the Run that have ended up going pro?
Well, 3 or 4 at least, Robbie?
Definitely a few.
Probably
I guess it depends how you
determine
pro.
Yeah,
but
they've left
from other companies.
They had
3
an
or 4
opportunity with another brand. Yeah.
I mean,
and
we breed
most
talent.
of them are women, which is awesome. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think it's also like, if you're like, we had some women that were quite talented that maybe it's not as easy to find the talent in trail running if you're a corporation, unless you're going to these events. So all of a sudden, Believe in the Run has a reviewer and they start following them and going, oh, geez, this woman's pretty rad at trail running.
Yeah.
checking out their profile. Yeah.
You want to come run for normal? You want to come run for Hoka? We've had Hoka, normal.
Well, technically, Speed Lamb, but that was after he reviewed for us and then had moved on. So Don. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we actually set that up.
Yeah.
You did.
So, but nevertheless, still a sponsored athlete. But yeah, and I'm just waiting for someone to send me a contract, but I haven't seen anything show up yet.
You should get the mustache grooming contract.
Why isn't it me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think. Well, I was just gonna say, I think that what we're doing is still fairly unique, even though like media has blown up, even the few years that I've been with Believe in the Run. But yeah, having females, for one, being gear reviewers, that's really attractive. But also, if you're also a very talented athlete, you got the pedestal to like kind of display yourself and all your running from Believe in the Run, the website. All you have to do is click on the profile and can tell some of the great accomplishments.
And then you're sponsored. The thing that drives me nuts, that's actually crazy to me, is that we hear companies say, or we hear people say, oh, there's not a lot of female reviewers. I'm like, there are, just whenever we get one, you guys,
they get sponsored.
You take them. Yeah.
And yeah, we're always open to bringing on more talent.
Yeah.
If it fits, you just need to know how to take a photo. Take a photo and write. Those are the two requirements.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I guess you should run. That's a good one.
Yeah. You definitely need to run.
You should definitely trail run.
Be able to articulate your thoughts about shoes. That's also exciting. I think that, we've talked about one of your responsibilities coming on being someone that's scouting out, and not just women, but reviewers for trail. Of course, then Robbie gets to look at him and go, yes or no. Yeah, he gets to be the emperor.
The gladiator, thumbs up or thumbs down.
He just saw Gladiator.
It is really
too.
the picture taking that is the clutch skill that you need.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's amazing how many bad photos of shoes you can see. And everybody thinks that putting the shoe on a fence post or a rock is going to do it.
We've all been there in the very beginning. Question. So since you actually don't have a lot of time because you are on your lunch break, but I did want to ask you, for people who are looking for shoe recommendations, what your favorite trail shoes are right now.
Ooh, okay. Well, this is kind of hard because some of the trail shoes that we saw at the running event, I already have. And so, just as a brand, the North Face has kind of had my number last year and this year, which is
that's so crazy because
I know.
Yeah.
They were trash for a while.
Megan and I had to do the North Face 50 miler in California with their shoes back in the day. Megan still won't run more than a 50K because of that.
Yeah. You can blame that on the North Face. But if you get into any of their new stuff, you got the soft cushion, got the responsiveness, I've just been really impressed with them as a brand. And that's whenever there's a lull, that's kind of what I reach for, just because they're fun and feel great and they can approach a lot of different terrain. We put Brooks Catamount 3 pretty high on the list on our end of year reviews. And that's just a great do-it-all shoe. It's meant for racing, but you can use it for anything. It's a tempo shoe. It's based off of the Hyperion line. So it just feels fun good on the dirt. It's just fun on the dirt.
See, my favorite trail shoe this year, I don't know if it even I haven't seen your trail picks yet, but the Tecton. I absolutely love. Did that make the list?
It was on there. And honorable mention?
It was honorable mention number 2. I think it works really good for some scenarios. You running in the 2.5 is a better shoe than the 3. And that's why all of the elite athletes are.
That was my guess. I liked it. It's a little more opened up, but the problem I think that it has, and which I noticed when we were out in California, is 2.5 doesn't have the protection of the foam that the Tecton 3 has. So I did get some chunks out on some of the rocky terrain that we did. But I just love that shoe.
Yeah, it's a great shoe for certain terrain. And it's one of the, like, if I could like put that midsole on pretty much any other upper, like it's just fun, feels good. And you could go so far with it without any complications. Yeah, that's a great shoe.
Tell me, have you run in the,
that's the thing.
Have you run in the Norda 005 yet? Because we did get it a month ago or a couple weeks ago at the running event.
Yeah.
Have you run in it yet?
Just on our Austin run, and spent a couple days on cement floors in it. But that one's super impressive, how light it is, how responsive, how good the upper feels. Like that one's going to be a race day pick for sure.
We wore it all week and our feet felt fine. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'm talking over you.
No,
we
good.
wore it all week and the feet felt fine. So I can't imagine it wouldn't be great on the trails. The only thing I guess would be my concern or question, more than a concern, would be it's got small lugs on it. So it's not going to be great for like really technical terrain, but like the stuff that we were running on when we were out in Olympic Village or wherever that was, it seemed like it would be a great shoe for that kind of terrain.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I'm not trying to say that I am the elite level reviewer and that everybody should listen to me in this sense, but so many people, I'm up there, I know that. But so many people dog any shoe that has a 4 millimeter or 3.5 millimeter lug, which in most conditions, it's going to do fine on any terrain.
I normally would prefer it.
Really. Yeah, exactly. And it's more versatile to be able to hit some roads or smoother sections. And so if you're picking a shoe based just off the outsole, I would probably refine your practice of doing that, because it can
and we should
do
note,
a lot. It's not going to dig into the mud. Yeah.
We should note that Matt Seidel, Norda athlete, he wore the 005 for JFK 50 miler front to back, all 50 miles.
That's insane.
That's some crazy terrain on the AT. And he came in third place overall.
Yeah,
without changing his shoes.
I don't know if there's any other top 10 athletes on either side that stayed in one pair of shoes. So that's just like impressive on its own. And he's a really good athlete as well. But like, if you can run that race in particular with one pair of shoes, where many people are switching into Alpha Flies for the faster section, like,
I heard that was a mistake. Some people said that it was like too harsh for the Alpha Flies on the towpath. So one guy actually messaged me and said that he wore the CLO X1 because he was like, you guys always talk about being a great trainer. And he's like, it had the cushion, had the thing. He goes, I had a flawless second half where his brother-in-law wore the Alpha Flies and got blisters and stuff.
Wow.
I don't know that I'd want to be Alpha Fly is great for like road where you're not going to be shifting around a lot in the shoe. I don't know how great it would be on that towpath, but that's just one person's opinion. But no, I wasn't questioning whether or not the lugs would be good. I just am curious how it would perform on the trails. I prefer a smaller lug just because I like a smoother feel underfoot, especially if you're going long distance. That having that cleat feel. I've worn Innovates and I've worn like smoother trail shoes.
Innovates are soccer cleats. Let's be real.
I mean, it was great the time I wore them because it was muddy and snow was on the ground, so it worked out. But it wasn't exactly the most comfortable.
Yeah, but it can work even if it has shorter lugs. That's a thing, and do really well.
Like I would think that would be a good shoe for hat because you have those road sections.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Definitely. How much time we got left, Taylor? Time check.
Let's do 5 minutes. Yeah.
5 minutes.
Did you eat your peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Not yet. Saving that for later.
I actually do have another question. Since you are from Minnesota and you run in the cold a lot, and winter we're just getting into it right here in the Mid-Atlantic where it starts to get real cold. What's your favorite cold weather running tips?
Mittens are magical. Just keeping the fingers together, it makes all the difference. Like I wear mittens all the time, and we just got in these new Arc'teryx mittens. Wonderful. They're like a Gore-Tex, basically a Gore-Tex liner. as a mitten, and I can wear that. Like, it was 17 degrees this morning, and I only wore that, and it's basically a liner, and did fine. But you can put gloves in it.
When you're saying it's like a shell, and then you have gloves inside?
You can do gloves inside, but you don't have to. Like, I didn't.
Wait, you just wore a shell over your hand?
Yeah.
And what was the temperature?
Well, it probably had a fleece. Did it have a lining in?
It has it doesn't have a micro fleece. I don't know the material that's on the inside. There is an internal liner of some sort, but it's a Gore-Tex. Yeah.
What was the temp?
Yeah.
17.
17?
17.
I'm complaining over here about 29.
Yeah.
It's probably feel like summer.
Yeah, and I live a little higher than the town here, and so it's basically like between 10 and 20 degrees.
Ugh.
Most of my runs.
For how long of it?
Months.
What part of the year is that? 5 months?
More than that.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Taylor,
well, our winter is like 6 months.
Like Colorado seems so cool when you look at it in the summer, or if you're at a ski resort. But it sounds horrible to live there.
Taylor's always trying to get me to. He's like, dude, you got to move to Colorado for the last 5 years. I'm like, I have the app on the weather app on my phone, and I have Estes Park just to look at it. And when it's in September and I see a 10-degree morning, I'm like, absolutely not.
And by the way, Taylor, if he moves to, if you get him to move to Colorado, then you're both fired.
Dang it. Okay.
Dude, there's no way.
Well, then don't.
I need
I'm
Robbie's
looking
energy
outside
here
right
in Baltimore.
now. Yeah. Especially
I like
when
the
he
dirt.
has a 5-hour energy.
What I'd like is a campus there. We should have set up a Colorado campus.
Okay.
We can travel out there for a week, do some trail riding.
Let's just do a canvas tent out in the field.
I just remember I always went to Colorado in the winter to go skiing. Mm-hmm. And then I did the Trans Rockies run. And I will never go back to Colorado except for in summer. It's beautiful. It is amazing.
It really is the saving grace, especially if you're not a huge skier. Like I enjoy skiing, but I ski for the uphill action of it. If you're a big skier, you can play in all seasons for sure.
Who skis for the uphill action? That's insane.
Is that, you mean the lift, the ski lift?
Yeah.
Nope.
You vape on the ski lift and drink some beers on the way up? Drink Fireball?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have done that, but not typically. Yeah.
Fireball. Not the
Dude,
vaping.
when I was a kid,
But
peppermint
just
schnapps
to lay
and
it out there.
goat stomach bags.
Oh, yeah.
That was the move.
Okay. Just out of the inside pocket.
Yeah.
But for Colorado, I'm just going to give it a good wrap. I'm looking outside and kids are in t-shirts because it's like 50 degrees right now. So it could be 17 in the morning and warm up.
Okay. That is true. It does. Today it's still 30 degrees here in the middle of the afternoon, but it's 50 there. So
exactly. Being in Minnesota, I was reminded I'm never living there again because any sort of moisture in the air just makes it feel so cold.
Yeah.
So never doing that again.
All right.
I love Minnesota, but.
Well, that's a good way to wrap it up. We're back to Minnesota. Anything else we forgot to say?
It all comes back around. No, but I am really excited for what we're kind of stepping into for Believe in the Run. I think the next year is, big exposure, getting us out there, but there's so much to be had in the sport and the space and with the people. I'm honored and just super excited to really get rolling.
It's so much fun to watch the team grow and to have good people on the team. And I think you've already been with us, so you kind of know the culture, but once the team is the most important part of this whole thing, and it makes it all worthwhile is lifting everybody together.
It really does. And that's like, I've had one offer from a competitor and one offer from like a more local magazine to do stuff for outdoors, but there's nothing quite like Believe in the Run sense of team. And I just have always loved the vision you have for the people on your team. And so I haven't wanted to go anywhere else or try this with anybody.
That's cool.
else.
Who's the competitor? Because we're going to have to stomp on the neck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send Robbie out there with a gun.
Yeah.
Yep. Robbie's first assignment.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon. Have fun the rest of your school day teaching. Make sure you eat your lunch.
Thank you. Thank you.
And just remember, if those little guys get on your nerves, you only have a little bit longer with them.
A few more hours.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was thinking permanently.
Yeah.
Oh, just another semester. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. We'll
All right.
talk to you soon.
Take it easy.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.